person or two downstairs who will come up when they realize we're up here, but let's go ahead and start. Call the meeting to order. Marcia, could you please do the roll?
Okay, Tina Anderson, Pamela Bowers,
She's here, she just stepped out.
Darlene Dodson,
Here.
Terry England,
Here.
Mimi here, Tony is absent, excused, Michelle Hopkins, Lisa Hutchins, Carolyn Jones.
Here.
Micah,
I'm here.
Raven, Ross is an excuse as well.
Yes.
Christy Phillips, Laura Sanders,
Here I am.
and Sally Russell.
Yep.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Got it. All right, thank you. Next is approval of the minutes from June 25th. Are there any suggested changes or revisions to those minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Laura, seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. All right, the minutes are approved from the June 25th, 2024 meeting. Thank you for that. Next, we have mission moment. Kenitra, are you going to be leading that for us?
Yes. So today we have a mission moment that is going to highlight our over the past couple of weeks. We've had a couple of great activities going on. Our meet and greet week that was spearheaded by the wonderful Mrs. Florence Malone Crump. But then also our back to school jam that we just hosted. Well, we're excited because we've had the highest turnout that we've had over the last couple of years. We had the opportunity to serve over 100 families, children and families that came out. So we're really excited. So you guys will get to see the highlight of those two events over the last couple of weeks, where we had all members of the CPP team out and engaged in the community with our providers, our parents, and our youngest customers.
Thank you. Any questions for Kenitra? All right. Next we've got, I'm sorry.
So all 800 backpacks have been delivered. We did a partnership for the first time this year with Queen City Book Bank, so we gave away 10 cases of books, and Hector was on site to be our wonderful interpreter. We have a large number again of bilingual families, so it was a hit this year, and I was excited that other people came besides just people that wear a preschool promise name tag. So it had a very good turnout. So
Heard you ran out of book bags.
well, we ran out of book bags because we only brought 100 because we delivered all the rest, right? And so we said, well, we never turn a child away. So whether you're a preschool promise child or not, you got a backpack. And about 15 minutes before we were done, the Kona Ice truck did at least 150 servings. So Kona Ice was a hit. So it was a
They're
very
probably having a
good.
great week coming up.
So let me just add on, because Short said we gave 800 book bags. We actually gave 900 some book bags out. We gave 800 in delivery, the staff delivered 170 and 100 at the back-to-school gym.
Good.
And so just for those of you who are newer members, remember that this is not the everyday back and forth backpack, it is the Smart Start backpack, so that children have them in non-traditional settings, if they're riding the bus, if they're at a grandparent's house. And thanks to the grant that we got from the Village Preschool in Anderson when they closed down, and from our sponsors, every child got a book. They either got the night before preschool, or what's the new book you all do?
Biscuit goes to preschool.
Biscuit goes to preschool. In English or Spanish, that's fine. So, yeah, so it was a good week. Good week. So, on to me, right? Okay, so I gave you all a handout. As you know, Congress is in recess until the week after Labor Day. So you have in front of you that we handed out the first 5 years plan, kind of snapshot of what's happening at the federal level in early education and policy. Not quite ready to give you all an update yet because there's recess, right? And we know that a lot of things may change with our new nominations and things that are happening. I will keep you updated, and I would encourage you that if you have an opportunity, go to the first 5 years fund website, sign up for their updates, and they also have an active legislative tracker that has all 180 pieces of legislation that impact early learning, as well as task comparisons and budget things. But I gave you a highlight in this sheet of what's happening in Ohio, kind of a state of education, early education in Ohio. And then following that, you'll see the 5-page summary of those active legislation that we anticipated people were going to address during the August recess. They kind of got everybody to get excited about. So that's what that snapshot is. Now, some more on what's happening locally is tying our strategic priorities and where we are with our strategic plan and some local changes that are happening. As you all know, we are delivering on our strategic plan. Our priorities are on track. The one thing that is really sticking out is our ability to support non-traditional school hours. And after some input from the executive committee and some of our stakeholders, we're going to work on refining that objective so that it actually reflects what we can accomplish and what we plan to do with that strategic objective. Maybe non-traditional hours isn't the right word, maybe school, not non-school or academic hours, but really honing in on what we have the capacity to influence on that part of our strategic objective, right? Everything else is continuing as usual in terms of maximizing enrollment and reaching our goal. How do we address the special needs of every child, and some new initiatives at the state called Ohio Promise, other mental health supports that they're doing, and also how we look at addressing the funding sources with our partners. We are still awaiting, and my hope is that it will be in the next 60 days that the Children's Funding Project is producing for us a fiscal site funding map like they have done for other states. And what it does is track every source of funding, public source of funding throughout the state at a county level and a state level for the 0 to 5 space, right? So that's going to tell us every levy, every federal grant trickle down, every funding source, and it is searchable. They have done a beta test for 4 other states. They are contracted to do it for our state. I'm waiting patiently for delivery, right? To give us some input to what our next steps are. When we're looking at managing change in terms of state policy and early education, what we're really focused on is new ways that funding streams are coming in. The Department of Children and Youth did an announcement at the end of July about the ability to no longer leverage stack, blend, braid, and mill early childhood education slots with publicly funded child care slots, right? So that immediately brought us back to the position that many of our providers are frequently in, where they have to make a choice of which funding source to use and what to access, knowing that even if they effectively blended, braided, and stacked those, there would still be a gap between the actual cost of providing that quality education and the reimbursement amount, right? So we're going to continue to look at how they do that. Changes Step Up to Quality went effective July 7th. The state has a very detailed plan, thanks to the good partners at Force Venus, the CCR&R, on how they're doing education, training, getting everybody up to speed as that, and our QI department is also committed to working on that as well. We have a large number of community providers that are just because of I don't know what to say other than teacher fatigue, right? Who are saying it's too much. The paperwork, how we choose it, what we have to process, that we have to hit a pause on it. So we're not closing our site. What we're going to do is either no longer access Preschool Promise, publicly funded child care, or other funding streams that require us to do that paperwork and that extra effort. Though we've seen a decline in that and a few people opting out, we've also seen a growth in new providers that we're putting in our system as well. So we're closely tracking seat capacity, but as we always remind you, that's not the same as actual seats that are available in the system, right? Because capacity depends on educators that we have, teachers that are working, availability of the site. So we're monitoring that number, but as you know, anytime anything we give you is a snapshot in time. But we have coffee and conversations that have revived, we have preschool chat, we have members of our team. Part of why we did meet and greet week is what providers said to us is they need to see us. They need to not just get an email, they need to see a person. So we went out to do that, and we start to hear more from the field of what their challenges are and how we continue to address those. One continues to have challenges around special education and growing social emotional learning needs. Those are not just of the students, but also of the educators and also of the parents and families. As you know, this has long been a focus. We had the call to action from the U.S. Department of Education when we came to you to talk about that almost 4.5 years ago to say this was coming. And we really are working on how we leverage all of our resources to do that, whether that is the Consortium for Resilient Children, whether that's partners like Beach Acres, whether that's working with providers locally to say, you know, how do we work with ASME to do something simple as sponsoring a wellness day that, as our team told us, almost 30, 45 providers attended, just to have a conversation in an informal event to do wellness. So you'll see more of that coming from us to how do we support the need that we've heard from providers. Workforce continues to struggle not only locally but nationally, and I don't think that's going to change either. We have made significant progress and have some bright spots in the initiatives that you'll hear about at our annual report time and our outcomes. And also how we're making alignment strategically with probably over 7 to 9 different organizations who are focused on early childhood education just in our region, right? Not only our CCR and our partner, but also looking to people like Queen City Book Bank, right? Looking to Beach Acres. How are we aligning with all of those organizations? So that's really how we're managing change, to always look at who Preschool Promise is, right? There's opportunity for us to drive system change, to always serve as a funding source, and to deliver on outcomes for children, and also keep the promises that we made to our stakeholders, which are our children, our families, and our people. Right? So that's kind of the high level before we get to the good stuff at the next meeting with the annual report. Sally, you look like you're dying to say something.
I have a question.
Okay.
So at this meeting, or maybe it was executive or both, you talked about we could no longer layer funds, which sent off all sorts of alarm bells because we have been doing that. I ran into Alicia Leatherman at a Cincinnati Reds game. She works.
By ran into, I mean, chased her down, walked up to her and said,
No, it was
Just
fabulous
asking.
reunion.
Just asking.
Because, we worked together for, as young as she is, for decades. And she at one point was the director of the Ohio Child Care Resource and Referral Agency.
Yeah.
So we spent innings 3 to 7 standing up, talking about early childhood.
We just ran into each other. We just ran into each other.
7 is when they stop selling.
So you have worked it out, Sally. You have a solution to the challenge, right?
But she said, when I said, what's this about no longer being able to blend or layer funds? And this of course was not a sit-down conversation, but she said that the publicly funded childcare for a top-rated program is up to $15,000, and that, first of all, and should be sufficient. And I wanted to talk to you and others about.
You want to go first, or
Does
you want me
that
to go
make,
first?
what does that mean? Does that make sense?
It's not sufficient. I would say that, and I understand why she has to have sort of that line of response. I'd say in a high quality program, it's not unusual that it would be more like 18,000. They are
The cost, you mean
the cost, yeah,
their cost.
per child. They're between a rock and a hard place, and I'll just sort of translate probably what she might not have been able to say.
Yeah, so thank you, Vanessa, because I can't say it either. Go ahead.
Yeah. The legislature wants, 10 to 14,000 more children in childcare, right? Their, I would say, vision of that is that half-time seats are enough, because their idea is that children that are not in care are children where that would be sufficient for their parents. What we, I think, all know is working parents are the predominant group that is struggling to find care. They absolutely need full-day care. But basically, we've seen what our legislature has done. It kind of so we've got a year here where this is, there's no going back on this. You can't, we're using the word just, wrap around. We don't say layer anymore.
People frown on layers.
Yeah. And so, there will be families that will be affected by this without question. And, we're in the mode, frankly, of gathering that information as it happens to give them the information. They can change it in a year, but it's not going to change until that. Does that help?
Well, yeah.
So how many hours a day are you talking about, Sally, with 15 or 18,000 per child?
I forgot to get into that because my
Oh.
mindset is full day year round.
Yeah, that's 8 to 10. That's 8 to 10 hours a day. It's full,
Okay.
full day.
10 hours.
Full day, not the 3.5-hour half day thing.
Right. So just a little bit of information, now that I'm dating myself, when I came into the industry, it was 3,200 per child.
For full day year
Oh,
round.
1,300. But nice to hear that it's up to 18 and can go higher.
Well, it's to 15.
No, it's up to 15.
Oh,
But the
15.
cost
Okay.
really
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and if you all will remember, the cost analysis that we did, that almost took me 8.5 months, every piece of data I had, everybody on deck, told us that our range was 13 to 18.5,
Okay.
right?
So
Of
if
what the
your
actual
costs
cost
are
was.
18.5, you're losing 35.
Right.
The biggest part of that is labor's gone up by 20% at a minimum.
Well, of course.
And remember, what no one ever says is, the only way that this works, that 15 works, to actually support a program, is if you are at full capacity and
Yeah.
everyone is attending. There is no business I know that sells out the pizza every night, that sells every donut, it just doesn't work like that. Because it is a payment that is on attendance, not on enrollment. So if you miss certain days, you're not getting that full 15K, but your overhead expenses are not changing, right? And so the thing that also highlights with that 15,000 is, if you can get 15,000 from publicly funded childcare, right? We're happy that you can access that early education. But what it means from us as an organization is, what is your benefit to being involved with Preschool Promise? So while there are still people in the system that need our services and supports, we see our numbers go like this. When providers say, I'm just gonna do this, and that's where it is. Now ideally, that's our goal, right? Everybody gets there, we use all the resources in the system, but we know there's still a gap, right? And this is the worst possible time that we can see our numbers do that, because I can't explain that in a soundbite to a levy writer. Right? So just be mindful, when I told you all 18 months ago, ooh, train wreck, this is what it looks like. So thanks for that intel. Can I make a list of questions?
Yeah, because I'm gonna be in touch with her.
Can you repeat the website? Is it the
First
first 5 years
years
fund
fund.
website?
Yes, it is.
So it's www.ffyf.org, ffyf.org.
And what I'll do, Carolyn, is I'll send it in the board of managers update.
Okay.
A hyperlink
Thank
so
you.
that you all have that.
Wonderful, thank you.
So that's my kind of happy, not so happy story. We're watching it. There's money and infusion in the system. Sometimes it has a different organizational impact, right? So strategy and what we're doing to address that. As many of you know, and thank you for you all who came to hang out with me when the Children's Funding Project site visit came. We have been engaged with them for almost 18 months, and they are really the core of the 52 voter-led initiatives that are around this country, helping us think through program sustainability, how things are funded, what we're looking at in big picture and strategic vision. We were lucky enough to have them here for a site visit. Our colleagues from Denver came, from Indiana, from Louisville, from Akron, from Toledo, from Dayton, and it was really a wonderful 2 days to kind of help us think through strategy a little bit more. Our chief learning and outcomes is that we will be going to Akron in October to help them get started. Louisville has credited us with helping them build from the ground up, including lending them legal counsel for the important pieces and how they do that. But more than that, we hope this also puts us on the map with national funders who regularly fund the Children's Funding Project and some of the voter-approved initiatives. When they say they have challenge, when they say they need extra seats, there are foundations who will come to a community and say, you need 300 extra seats, we're willing to give you the funding for that. That is our dream for the $1.2 million that we need for our extended learning session in the summer. So all these opportunities to network, to learn, and strategize benefit us, and I will be joining them for the next site visit in Portland in 2 weeks. And we are always impressed in Portland because Portland pulled their voter-approved initiative only from people who made $1 million or more. They have $461 million in reserves that they have collected in their first 3 years because they've done leveling and smoothing in a different way. They were very clear in their messaging that said we will not be reporting outcomes or impact for a decade. Do not ask us. We cannot tell you. You will not have it. So we're excited to see what we can learn from them, and especially some of those West Coast funders. Tech money is still big in some places. So overall, you will continue to see updates us from the Children's Funding Project. Their international blog featuring us will come out Wednesday after Labor Day, and we'll keep you updated on what happens for that. So it was a good investment, nice event. Glad you could all be here and see the highlights. The next thing is our enrollment snapshot and our dashboard. This is kind of our year-end dashboard that you have. You know, we still have 2 areas that are yellow, and just to highlight to you why those are yellow. Parent education opportunities, we're always hopeful that we can get some more and have additional opportunities, but we're very frugal in how we count those. And at some point, parent education opportunity has to be offered, but we need to do a little bit more glad handing to say to providers, how can you help us connect this to parents? Because as you all remember, we're not the interface with parents. We rely on providers to do that. And in a season where there are many changes, and to be very honest with you, the reeling that occurred in the recovery from not having an extended learning session when we probably would have had, most of that parent outreach and contact didn't happen. It just didn't happen. And so we had to do a little recovery for that, and we built a little bit more on our partners for people like Queen City Book Banks, people like you more when we show the free books. So we're going to be working on refining that goal. And also on the ECE staff supported, made a decision mid-budget year that we were going to limit the number of scholarships that we gave to events, partially because we knew we had a final round of stabilization grants that would make those funds available. So we reserved those funds to when those stabilization grants weren't available to go to conferences. We also didn't initiate our business support program that we had planned to do with Greater Cincinnati Foundation that was supposed to do a touch with at least 100 providers. We put a pause on that for a lot of reasons. One, there are other business support initiatives. Others, providers told us very clearly at the NAACP Education Summit that they were not interested, they did not have time right now. So we could keep sponsoring things, but they were not coming. And if we could just wait until they could get through this time, then they would be a little bit more focused on it. We've submitted a new proposal to Greater Cincinnati Foundation. They're all go. We have some new ideas we're going to implement in partnership with LISC right next door, who is trying to get their footprint on investing in early education and childcare here. And they have small grant funds that they're going to be doing some business education. And we decided to incentivize people to take care of those opportunities with some private dollars. So when they have some mini grants and larger grants up to 10K, we'll match the mini grants. And if you go to the class, we'll give you $250 right away just to do that learning and how to support that, because people's time is valuable, right? And the notion that a provider is going to leave their site and leave their family to go do something extra that may be of interest with no compensation is okay if we have to do it, but we don't have to, because Greater Cincinnati Foundation has invested in that for the family child care providers. So more of that to come, and a model that actually compensates people who choose to be mentored, right? Like, it's great that you're willing to help your peers, but it takes some of your time, and if we can compensate you for doing that, then that's our plan, right? You'll see a highlight on here that'll be detailed in our annual report of our increased capacity seats with 196 new seats. Also our top enrollment areas and kind of the key initiatives that we're going to continue to work on and what we've accomplished this year, as well as our 2025 priorities. Again, at the annual meeting, we will kind of have our call to action, and I'm standing close to Micah because I haven't told him yet that we're going to tag team what that call of action is and our priorities that we ask everybody as we start to get set for.
Marcia's gonna be running that meeting.
Yeah, for 2025. You also have a snapshot here, as we do every year, of our TA application status as of August 23rd. We have a little bit of an update this week. Actually have 502 who are enrolled and 508 that have been approved, and a pending of about 230. Grand total of 829 that have been processed, and our team is in the field regularly, working on those numbers, onboarding new providers, trying to see how we do the pull through of the pending. So every day we have a member of our outreach and enrollment team and our full team delivering signs, talking to providers about applications and seeing how that works. But I am telling you now, it is unlikely that we're going to hit that 1,000 number that we hit last year. Now, gave you some of the reasons why, and know that we are going to be on track for our strategic goal with 35% of the eligible population meet and exceed that goal. But the numbers this year are going to look a little bit different, right? Not sure yet how we're going to massage that for the soundbite, but I'll know before now. Get it together. So we'll keep you updated on this and how it looks. I will say this to you, I'm not panicked, and so I ask you all not to panic yet, and I'm not panicked because I know my team, right? So that's where we are. Last snapshot, I want to give us some upcoming events. Preschool Promise Month, thank you all for your input. The theme this year is the power of the promise, right? So we'll be having our annual meeting, Innovations will do their presentation first Tuesday in October. These are some of the events that you'll see. A full calendar will roll out on Sunday night. That will be on our website. And flip to the next one. Some events that are coming up, the Ohio Department of Children and Youth is having the Ohio Leaders Summit. Sally, if you can talk to somebody and persuade them to get us an invite to that. It is my understanding that each county only gets 10 invites from DCY. And so I started calling people, and somehow my calls didn't get returned yet, but I'm hopeful that we may get an invite to that Leaders Conference in Columbus. For those of you who are familiar with Groundwork Ohio, they're doing the Momentum Institute again in Columbus. That's limited to 150 people. That is a good statewide kind of snapshot of what's happening on an advocacy level. Children's Hospital is sponsoring their Empowering Family Summit, and we are making scholarships available to families and providers who would like to attend. This year's theme is really focused on accessing those services in the community to address the special needs that your children and families may have. You'll see this full list of other events, and we've shared this before. Also keep in mind NAACP Freedom Fund Dinner October 5th, 4C Champions Gala November 9th, do I have it right? We will, and Gala in the Grove with Learning Grove November 22nd. Just to remind people, we cannot be sponsors of events. We purchase advertising, and then we ask people to purchase tickets at the Preschool Promise table if they were going to purchase individual tickets, because we then can raise some money to put that in. We can't cover ticket costs with levy dollars. We can cover advertising costs. So any sponsorships or ticket costs that we have to do for those tables has to come out of private funds, right? So be mindful, we would love to have you join us. We would love to have you buy a ticket even more. So looking forward to those events. And then here are our preview of some meeting dates for 2025. We'll send those out to you to check potential conflicts in the calendar. And I do have one request, if it's okay, Micah. We had a November board meeting planned for November 28th, which is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. So everybody can check their calendar, see if we can move that back around, right, to that Tuesday, because that Tuesday before Thanksgiving is really hard. It's really, really hard. Every year I think we can do it, and every year me and 3 board members are in there like, what?
So we're looking at the 19th?
Yes, yeah, the 19th. We'll send out a reminder to see what traction we can get in that. It's just, we are exhausted all by that point and ready for the break, and our heads just not in the game that Tuesday before Thanksgiving. So.
Yeah, so for the activities where we can purchase, like buy a ticket, will your staff be notifying us, letting us know, and we can respond to that?
Absolutely. So you'll get an invite in an email, you get a Google invite to the event, and most of the time in the Board of Managers update, it'll have a link.
Okay,
It has a Google
great.
form that you can let us know.
Thank you.
And if you buy your ticket directly, most of our, the sponsoring agencies are very kind, where I do a roundup, like, oh, my people bought separate tickets and we did this, can you just group us together? And we can work it out.
Okay.
So as soon as we do that, I reached out to Forcing Today and Learning Grove last week about the best way for us to register with that partnership, and as soon as we have it, we'll share it with you.
Wonderful, thank you.
And sometimes we end up with 2 tables if we have a lot of people, like at the NAACP event. Okay, so, all right. I think I'm good. Can I close out?
Any other questions? All right. On the committee reports, we've got governance tonight. Marcia.
Good afternoon, everybody. So we got 2 things. The Board of Managers class of 2027. So the letters went out about a little over a couple months ago to all the nominated entities. And as you see in your packet, we have 1 nomination so far, and that is from the United Way, nominating our fearless leader here, Michael Cameron.
I'm back.
He's
Thank
back.
goodness. Thank goodness.
And so, we are, oh, and here it is, okay. And so we have hot off the press, the resolution from Cincinnati Public Schools. And so we have those 2 nominations. You have copies for everybody?
I do. I
Okay.
do.
All right, that'd be great.
Can I just pass them? Instead of
So at their board meeting last evening, they nominated, for our board, Glenn Calhoun and Christopher Bennett. So they will be serving 3-year terms beginning, actually, it will begin at our annual meeting, correct? Okay, so at our annual meeting, for those of you who haven't been through that process, so what happens is that we will submit the class for a vote at the annual meeting. And then the United Way will ratify that, right after that, right? So that's how that will work. So now we have 3 of our 5, and we're still, need to hear from Promise Boards on their 2 nominations. And so it's
Now,
our,
we're losing.
we are losing Laura and Pam.
And Pam.
Ooh. Yeah, well, that'll be my next agenda item in a minute, so, okay, so. All right, we're.
Spoiler
That's what
alert.
you're,
Yeah, spoiler alert, so next, so any questions on the class of 2027 though? Are we good? Our hope is that we would get, nominations by our governance meeting on September 12th. We'll just kind of see what happens and we'll move from there, okay?
And I did speak with Pastor Tate, and the next Promise Board meeting is in September. And I didn't write the date, but it's like the 3rd Tuesday in September. And he said that we will have on or before that date, the nominees for this committee. Said he was gonna be here today, but I don't see him. So just let you know that he said the committee will be meeting and he will have a couple of recommendations.
Okay, so if you can let him know, our governance meeting is the 12th, so that's when we're gonna be packaging everything
Okay.
for our annual meeting. A lot of work goes into the annual meeting preparation, so we want,
Okay,
as
that's
we
what.
can, get that tightened up.
Okay.
Okay, so, yeah, spoiler alert. So, the next topic I have is the Preschool Promise Board Governance Principles. So you have a red line in your packet. This is the first read for this. So, you had it in your pre-reads, and hopefully you had a chance to go through it to see what changes are being, recommended for our approval at the annual meeting. So we will vote on this at the annual meeting, but just a couple of highlights of things that are included in those changes. The first being that we will continue to have 5 nominations from our 3 nominating entities, but in addition to that, we are proposing to increase our board size by 3, and those recommendations will come from the governance committee of the Preschool Promise Board. So, that will take effect assuming that this board ratifies these governance principles at the annual meeting. The other thing that has been included here is more specificity around absences and what that means, as well as the process for nominations and putting some guidelines there on how soon we need to receive those nominations prior to our annual meeting. And the thought here is that we are a governance board, we have a lot of business that we have to get done, and we want to make sure we have quorum. And so we need to make sure that we have rules around the absenteeism so that people know, we're expecting you to be here, we hope you're going to be here, you said you would. You said you would participate with us, and so it makes us sad when you're not here. No, I'm only kidding, but not. So, you know, so in terms of life happens, if you can't be here, just notify our staff and let us know that you're not going to be here. That's an excused absence, but no show, no calls don't work. Okay, so we're gonna need to pay attention to those things. And then around the nominations, we need to get those things done in a timely manner as well. And while I'm thinking about it, the nominating committees, oh, got a question? Somebody have a question? Yes.
I
I'm
did.
sorry.
As I was reading this, you know, I think I'm trying to understand kind of the rationale for expanding it by 3, which I'm fine with, but just needing to know a little more. Didn't know if today was the day to talk about that, or are you waiting? Today is the day. Okay, so if you could expound on that a little bit. And are these 3 additional seats more like at large? And whose authority? Is there a criteria? And if you could just explain that in a little bit.
So one of our guiding principles, and one of the things that we use a lot is, and you all had the opportunity to answer that, is our skill matrix.
Yes.
So what that does, it gives us an opportunity to look at, and we do send that skill matrix out to the entities so that they know, hey, here's some things that we need to really round out our board, help us stay on track, help our CEO stay on track with us, you know, with our strategic plan, et cetera. But what it does is it gives us an opportunity, if we still have gaps, then we can actually go and fill those seats.
Can I speak to the 3?
Yes.
20 was too. 15 was right. 18.
Yes, you wouldn't let us do it.
It was a lot, right? Because we had, with governance committee, had talked about, you know, like, should it be 5? Because each of the nominating entities have 5, right? It just seemed like a lot. So one that matches each of the nominating entities, because we have 3 nominating entities, seemed reasonable. That's just, we just went around and said, should it be 5? Should it be 6? Should it be 3? We came up with 3 in terms of the numbers.
Maybe I'm confused. When you say nominating entity, you're speaking about the
The 3 nominating entities, so
CPS,
Promise
Promise
Forward,
Forward,
and United Way.
So-
There's still 5 there.
Yes, but these 3 seats are outside, they're outside of those 3. So,
Correct.
and my question is, are they more like at-large positions?
Yeah,
Is that what?
it's written to be the governance committee.
Okay.
We'll bring them to the board, right?
Okay.
I think that's-
I'm good, I'm
That's a
just
good
trying to understand.
description.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel it's very important that we have the flexibility to get skill sets or people or retain people that may not be renominated that have been excellent, you know, that type of thing. So and I think that was one of the main drivers of it, is this was kind of, there are very few nonprofit boards that have no ability to go out and, you know, we can say, please, we would like this person or someone like this, but have no actual ability to ensure that we get that person. And this gives us that way of trying to, I think, build the best team to have around the table for everything coming up in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Any
I
other
just have to say, I'm not on the committee, but I feel like this is a compromise. Ideally, if a 501c3 nonprofit organization should have some control over who's on the board. I was shooting for each entity have 3, and the nominating committee, anyway, so that a majority of the members are appointed. So this goes a long way, but not as far as I would have liked it. But I think telling our 3 entities that they now only have 3 instead of 5 appointees wasn't going to go over very well.
Any other questions on that piece? So, a couple other things in here we did was to define the cost quality committee as a board committee. And as far as committee meetings, we have put a provision in there where our committee meetings can be attended virtually. And still be able to vote that way, just the committee meetings. So that allows us to continue to get our committee work done without jeopardizing quorum because someone can't physically be here. So I think those are the highlights, but again, please read through them. If you have any questions, just reach out, talk about them, but the intent here is to make sure we capture everything for approval at our annual meeting in September.
So the cost of quality now is the standing committee of the board instead of being as an ad hoc, just something to, okay.
Let me thank Marcia and all the governance committee. I know this has been a lot of work the last little while, so thank you so much for the effort and energy. And if you have comments or thoughts between now and then, get with Marcia on that in advance of their September 12th meeting. Is that right?
Okay.
Anything else for committee reports? All right, next, contract renewal. We're going to make a little change. Instead of the action requests on the agenda, we're going to switch this from approval to information. The staff wants a little more time on this, and we'll likely see it at our next meeting for approval, but Shar, are you able to discuss it for information?
Oh, absolutely. So we are always so appreciative of our partners at 4C and Learning Grove, and it has taken us a while to kind of retool the shape that we wanted our quality improvement program to have, and they have been very patient, and we've gone back and forth with negotiations for a new scope of work. We've shared that with both of our partners, and in the spirit of partnership, we want to give them plenty of time to review it so we know our course of action going into our next 18 months on what we're going to do in quality improvement. And quite frankly, so many changes at the state level and so many changes with provider needs has allowed us to take a little bit more time to be focused on that. Also taking into consideration the budget changes that have happened, whereas you know in the initial version of the master agreement we had a mandatory minimum spend on quality improvement. That's changed, so we've had to negotiate in our budget where quality improvement fits and how we do the investment in that as well. And to remind you all, you have all approved the spend when you approve the budget of the maximum amount we can spend on this, so we have a good idea of what we're doing. We're on a month-to-month at the rate because this is an approved master service agreement. This is just the scope of work for the next 12 months that will be coming to you to approve. And I will say we rely on our partners and our quality improvement team and our deputy director to have some expertise, because I have done 2 reads of it and I started to ask questions that I realized I didn't need to be in the weeds, because quality improvement was not gonna, I was not an educator, that is not what I needed to know. So we will of course have the cover sheet on it that gives you all the highlights so that you can exercise your board duties and responsibilities in approving of that. But what I will say is we do have a vote of confidence in both of our vendors. We're not doing another RFP. We would like to continue with those relationships and make it beneficial. My request, and I think the team's request to both of our vendors is, what can we do to maximize the direct services we put out and minimize our reporting and our administrative fees associated for that? If you remember, when we started this new scope of work, we devoted a lot of time to trying to understand and dismantle what are the aspects of quality that work best. What are we doing in coaching that makes a difference? Year over year, what are we seeing? Given the realities of where we are with Ohio's QRIS system and what's happening, I do not think the best investment for us is to continue to track and compile that data, because at the end of the day, the data is going to tell us that we need to invest more in supporting providers and educators and teachers, and there is no more. Right? So I don't need the data to help me understand that we need a larger investment. the money is better spent providing direct services and giving our coaching vendors what they need to use their expertise to expand the minimal amount that the state provides to do those services. And so that's what the new scope of work will be reflecting on.
Any questions there? All right. Vera, you're next on our agenda. If you have an update you'd like to share, feel free to come on up and.
Read it. Dropped my first one.
That's all right.
Just we opened our doors to our preschoolers last Monday. We've had a very positive opening, so we're thrilled about that. A couple of updates. I'd like to thank Brittany for her collaboration for the week before then. We had first aid and CPR, and I believe she provided us the name of some providers that joined us at Withrow so they could get their first aid and CPR certifications. So I thank you for that collaboration. Hope we can continue to have some spaces for your people as we go forward throughout the year. This year in our area, we'll be aligning with kindergarten through 12th grade in 3 main areas of curriculum with targeted intentional focus. And those will be the instructional program with common assessments, progress monitoring, and tiers 1, 2, and 3 to cover all our children. Professional development based on needs or surveys that we have done with staff to align Okra-approved trainings with what needs are to service our children. And then, of course, attendance, because if the children aren't there, we can't teach them. So we will be doing that. I'm excited to say this number. Our total student funded and expansion dollars right now is 712. So 712, if I did my math right, Micah, plus your 812, we are servicing to date 1,524 tuition assistance children in the city, which is amazing. To add to that, and because we have other funding sources, we have a total number of students enrolled in our Focus, which is our new data system, so you're going to hear a lot about Focus in a lot of different ways. We have 1,557 students enrolled as of today. So then when you add that number with 812, to date in our city, this collaboration is servicing 2,369 students, and that's pretty amazing.
And those are preschoolers.
Those are
Does
preschoolers,
it
3 and
include
4-year-olds.
Does it include Head Start children?
Yes.
It does.
What is just your Head Start children?
Our
Or
Head-
ju-
Well, just
Oh,
our
because
Head
that's
Start.
all the city, otherwise it's
And
county.
what it doesn't include is the leverage students, so students who are at tuition assistance preschools but not receiving TA. And it doesn't include students who are at quality improvement providers. We will, for the first time this year, thank you for the push, Sally, have a leverage number of the actual number of children we think are benefiting from the investment, not just those that are receiving tuition assistance.
But that's pretty amazing considering we're only in the 2nd or 3rd week of August, so we're going to keep going with that. And next meeting, I will probably add, because I heard your focus was attendance. So next meeting, I will bring our attendance rates so we can keep monitoring that across the year.
That's a no for us, before you all ask me, that's a no. We
You
will
don't
try to
have
get,
focus.
yeah, no, we don't. We will try to get attendance rates maybe biannually, we can get it annually, but no, that's a no. We can, it's a struggle to get accurate attendance sheets turned in, much less something that can disaggregate what the rates for each child are. We get them annually, thanks to innovations, great work, but thanks, Vera. We support your attendance.
Okay. And just on I want to thank Laura and Pam for your services. Yeah. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you for that update, Vera. We appreciate it.
I'll give it back.
I think we have any other observers for comments, so that really brings us to the end of the agenda, I think. Yeah.
And so fair warning, you all have some bot back time now, because I will need you for all 2 hours.
Yeah, love to have as many people as we can at the annual meeting, and we've achieved a lot this year, so a good way to kind of turn the page and start another school year, in my personal preschool life. My youngest started preschool last week, and I'm now in year 5 of 6 in a row of preschool, so.
Been there, done that.
How are you and Mom feeling about
You
this?
know, we're getting there. He is the oldest of my 3 at the time of starting preschool,
Wow.
so he's ready to roll. But we're on year 5 of 6. When I started on this board, I had never had a child in preschool, and now I'm in year 5.
Preschool
So.
today.
Yeah.
You never had a child.
Yeah, that's probably right, that's probably right. I was actually thinking about it because he was born shortly after COVID and how the numbers are down this year, and it's because that was the year where there weren't that many children born. So those are the kids coming to preschool now, and I know, because that was my experience. All right, well, thank you, enjoy the time, we'll see everyone.
Oh, don't I get a motion?
Yes,
Yeah,
is there,
motion that we
is there,
adjourn.
is there a motion to adjourn?
So good.
All right, a second. Terry's got it. All in favor, get up and leave.
Thank you all.